Oh my god, there's a lot to take in. Welcome to the August Tale. I'm August, and here on the channel I review anime visual novels, but for this series we're going to cover the second season of Higurashi Sotsu. These series of videos will be an episodic review and will serve as a visual novel / original story comparison, as well as a theory crafting series to solve this new mystery of Higurashi. Spoilers for episode 10 of Higurashi Sotsu, and with that said, let's begin. With how slow the episodes have been so far, I expected nothing too outstanding to finish this arc. But oh boy, I was completely shocked. We have a lot to cover in this episode, so first off, let's discuss L5 Oishi, because it seems Satoko isn't the only one masterminding and manipulating people in this arc. Oishi is fully aware of the truth of the situation and is using it to stoke the flames. He's able to take control by becoming the in-between of the two parties, by revealing to the Child Welfare Services, or CWS, that Tepe isn't actually abusing Satoko and having them verify that. Oishi took full control over whatever happens, in the name of the police, under his jurisdiction. There's also a fair amount of credibility to support the idea that the village is attempting to oust Tepe too. Oishi, his second in command, and the CWS are from the city of Okinomiya. They are fully aware of the potential of the village of Hinamizawa, and with the Sonozaki family as the leaders, they can be a considerable threat. Like we've established, being declared as an enemy of the village can be a dangerous thing. They may be the closest town in this backwater area, but the environment is still vastly different from each other. And that's what Oishi is counting on. He wants the village culprits to come after Tepe, the outsider. Thus, Oishi needs to make sure that Tepe is put in a place where he can catch the culprits, which explains why Oishi instructed Tepe to stay inside his house. Rather than Tepe being himself and causing an uproar, it's safer to stay inside anyway. Even if he wasn't instructed, Tepe could still have convinced himself to do so anyway. Tepe realizes that his violent outbursts can cause problems. While he has completely changed his behavior through his desire to take care of Satoko, he's able to identify his own behavior as a bad habit of his and recognize that he needs to stop. Attempting to change is what Tepe has been trying to do this entire time. And this is just another one of his steps to ask for forgiveness, to try to be better for Satoko. This mindful reflection and action of atonement is one of the core foundations of Higurashi, and no matter how you view Higurashi Go / Sotsu, regardless of the Rika / Satoko debate, Tepe's gradual character development is one of the most meaningful elements within the Higurashi Go / Sotsu series. Okay, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the dramatic bombshell that is the climax of this arc. Now, we already have hints of this in the previous episodes, but slowly we got to see expressions of regret / hesitation from Satoko throughout this arc. There's also the flickering of Satoko's red eyes in episode 8, and it all finally accumulated to its breaking point, like glass cracking before shattering. Tepe's acts of care and love have been influencing Satoko until the moment of no return, when the red-eyed Satoko is about to shoot Tepe. Fortunately, Satoko manages to take back control of herself, and then we get to the big moment, the physical separation of the two entities within Satoko. The Satoko we know originally and the self-proclaimed witch, Satoko. Now we can easily blame all prior acts of murder on the witch Satoko. I think we can't be so easily dismissive about it either. I believe that the witch Satoko is the manifestation of Satoko's more malicious, darker side, a combination of her sadistic fondness towards Rika, the enjoyment of pleasure from manipulating people, and a collective of Satoko's most negative emotions. From her endless looping of manipulating the people of Hinamizawa like pieces on a chessboard, the witch Satoko was formed, like a higher being with control over other people's lives. It's only when Tepe's good-natured acts brought the original Satoko back to reality that she eventually noticed that she went wrong and attempted to take control back. Unfortunately, it was too late for her as her crueler witch self eventually won out. Now, since Satoko has given form to her witch self, this brings up the thought of blaming all prior violent acts on the witch Satoko. I wouldn't say that we can directly blame it all on the alternate personality of the witch Satoko and state that the original Satoko is absolved of her sins. The witch Satoko, I believe, is just a manifestation of her own self, just purely her negative aspects accentuated. She's still the one responsible. It's just now that the original Satoko has realized her faults and the mistakes of her own actions. There's a parallel you can make between Tepe and Satoko. Tepe did harmful, inexcusable acts to Satoko in the original Higurashi, and Satoko did the same to her friends throughout Higurashi Go / Sotsu. Here, Tepe realized the fault in his actions and tried to atone for it, and that's what made Satoko snap back to reality when she realized her own regrets. So the only piece left missing is how Satoko will atone for her sins. Unfortunately for her, where she's at right now is a desolate place to be in, because in the space between the myriad fragment worlds, there's almost no one to forgive her. There's only one person remotely possible, the Looper Rika. But the thing is, will Rika forgive Satoko for throwing her back into the endless loop of Hinamizawa? That is a question we may see come up. And most importantly, it's only then that Satoko might be able to forgive herself. With the evil witch Satoko shooting the normal Satoko, we can assume that the witch Satoko killed off her human side, which infers that the witch Satoko has now become the prevalent personality and the personality responsible for the subsequent loops. As for Satoko's human side, we could interpret that as the original Satoko we all know and love, the girl who loves Hinamizawa and loves her friends the most. I don't think that there's a clear point to when the witch Satoko was born. Again, I believe it's just the accumulation of all the original Satoko's negative emotions and then amplified by Awa's looping powers. Another perspective to think about is Satoko killing off her human side as a form of killing off her leftover grievances and second thoughts about not going through with her plan to convince Rika. Now compared to Tepe, rip our good-natured apron-wearing Tepe, Satoko was shot in the place between the myriad worlds. So it could be possible for the original Satoko to come back, it's just a matter of when and how. And now let's cover what is probably now the biggest mystery left to answer. At the end of this episode, we see that Tepe is very clearly dead, but in the Tatsuri Damashi Hen arc, the one we see to have assaulted Keiichi is a Red Eyes Tepe. So then what exactly happened when Keiichi arrived at Satoko's house? Could this be an illusion then? There's also the idea that it may not even be the same fragment, but a different fragment that got altered as a result of the Fragment Shattering. Or could this be some other possible theory? Here is my theory of the events of what happened. Satoko kills Tepe and prepares for the festival. Note, this does match why Satoko is in a different outfit compared to her normal one during the festival. There's just a tiny bit of blood on it. Rika comes to pick up Satoko outside of her house, completely oblivious of the murder. The festival happens and Satoko invites Keiichi over to her house. With all of the lights off, Keiichi walks into the house. Now here's where I'm a bit shaky on. My immediate thought is that Satoko hit Keiichi from behind with the bat. Keiichi becomes delusional and ends up seeing Tepe instead of Satoko. This is where I'm stuck because Keiichi was fighting back. I don't think he would mistake Satoko for Tepe. There's also the fact that there's Satoko's entrance in the room and her call out to her uncle. It just doesn't line up with the events in the Tatsuri Damashi Hen arc. At this point, Oishi arrives and sees the corpses. Satoko convinces Oishi that the one who killed Tepe is Keiichi, but on Rika's orders. In Oishi's mind, this concludes that Rika is the mastermind behind the Watsunagashi murders. From there, Oishi goes on a rampage, and it results in the Watsunagashi massacre. Of course, this is my theory of what exactly happened that night, but I'm curious about yours. What do you think happened? To conclude, after slogging through these last episodes, this one is the most pivotal of them all. Everything after this point should ideally be new content. Now that we know the events from this episode, moving forward, it's only gonna get more crazier from here. So what do you all think of this episode? And what are your thoughts? I would love to hear them. If you like what I do here, consider subscribing and check out some of my other videos here on the channel. New content every week. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.